Hello everyone, welcome to the discussion on IAS Mains 2019 solutions. This series is presented to you by Grace IAS. My name is Munish Bansal and today we are going to discuss the question number 9 of GS1. This question is related to empowering women to control population. The exact question which was asked in the UPSC paper was empowering women is the key to population control. Discuss. So essentially there are two topics. The first is women empowerment and the other is population control. This question is trying to link these two topics. Let's start with the introduction part. Essentially there are three ways in which you can write this introduction. The first is that if you have any credible source which links women empowerment and population control, which links these two topics. The other is that you talk about the population, you give some concrete data, you give some authentic source and give some concrete data that the situation of population is very grave or very acute. Or if you do not have any of such data, then you can simply talk about what is women empowerment. You can give a general definition also of women empowerment. So these are essentially the ways in which you can write the introduction. The first approach of writing the introduction is, so basically there was an conference, that is the International Conference on Population and Development, which happened in Cairo. In that conference in Cairo, there was a Cairo declaration that there is a clear link between women empowerment and sustainable development / population stabilization. So you can write this introduction also. The other introduction which could be written is that UN population report states that India will surpass China by 2027 in terms of population. Empowering women is one of the most important factors in stabilizing our population. Or you can give a more general kind of definition to women empowerment. Women empowerment, the empowerment of women and improvement of their social, economic and health status is an highly important end in itself. In addition, it is essential for achievement of population control. So you're saying that women empowerment is an end in itself, but it will also help in achieving the population control which we aspire. Let's move on to the body part. So this is one diagram and this is one data which you can remember and you can make in any population related data, population related question. So in this data you are comparing women's education level with TFR. TFR, that is total fertility rate. So as you can see, if the woman's education level are low, such as if she is illiterate, then the TFR level are high. It may seem that this is too much of data, but it is very easy to remember this data. So please try to do so if you can, and it will help increase visibility in your answer. If you make this table, it will give a very good visibility to your answer and help you fetch more marks. In addition, you can make this diagram. This diagram talks about the cycle of population growth. So basically what this diagram is saying that if population is very high, if there is high population growth, then there are too many people in the market who are ready to take up jobs. So we have something which we call surplus labor. If there are too many people, too much labor and less opportunities, less jobs, then obviously the labor would get a poor salary or a low salary, which we can also use the term wage subsistence or low wage. This low wage would lead to poverty. This poverty would lead to several socio-economic issues like IMR, like MMR, like child malnourishment, like women illiteracy, and eventually these socio-economic issues are responsible for higher population growth. So we have a vicious cycle here of population and poverty. So what women empowerment does is it targets the socio-economic issues such as MMR, child malnourishment and all these. So you can make this diagram showing that women empowerment is breaking the vicious cycle of population growth. Now in the body part, we can explain that women empowerment is essentially made up of several types of empowerment like educational empowerment, health rights, reproductive rights, financial rights, socio-political rights. If you think that you won't have the time and the space in your answer sheet to write all these headings, then you can write at least 3 to 4 of such headings. But these subheadings should be made in which further points would be given about which would be linking women empowerment and population control. Let's start with the educational empowerment. So here you can make the diagram which I showed you earlier, that there is an inverse relation between TFR, that is total fertility rate, and the women's education level. So you can make this diagram here. In addition to this, you can talk about that educational empowerment would increase the awareness and the accessibility to contraceptives. It will increase the awareness to the importance of family planning. Moreover, according to NFHS 4, 90% of high school educated women give institutional delivery. Institutional delivery helps in reducing the MMR, helps in reducing IMR. This eventually leads to lower total fertility rate. If a family is confident enough that their child is going to survive, then there is a high probability that they will not give birth to more number of children. So this is the importance of education. Now we talk about health right. Health right also, we can talk about, there is a direct link between mother's health and child health. In fact, the economic survey of 2017 talked about this link between mother health and child health. So as we know that in India, about 50% of women are suffering from anemia. A non-healthy mother would give birth to a non-healthy child. So there's a high chance of increase in IMR, in MMR. This is a major reason for high growth rate. Moreover, if the child health is poor, it is poor, especially due to the poor mother's health, then it directly links to poverty, because there would be less physical and cognitive growth of the child. Hence, he or she would not be able to earn much more money, and it will directly link to poverty and hence to population growth. So you can talk about these points as well. We can talk about reproductive right. In reproductive right, we can talk about the Cairo Declaration, in which the Cairo Declaration made it very clear that reproductive rights are very important for population control. Reproductive rights should be given to women. Now, what is reproductive right? It is the right to decide freely and responsibly the number, the spacing and timing of their children. So basically, what should be the number of children a woman is going to give birth to? What is the space, what is the timing gap between two children which should be there? So it is advised that it should be at least 2 to 3 years, the gap between two children. And a woman having all this having this right to decide on these matters, it is called the reproductive rights. So you can talk about reproductive rights as well. Socio-political rights. If women empowerment is there, socio-political rights would be there, so there would be less number of child marriages. Child marriages are said to be one of the major reasons for high growth rate, high total fertility rate. Then there would be less of this concept of son meta preference. Son meta preference is a concept which was explained in the economic survey, in which people keep on giving birth to children until they get a male child. So according to economic survey, India has about 21 million women children, girl childs who were unwanted, because they were given birth in the aspiration, in the desire to have a boy child. Then we can also talk about abortion laws, that if the woman gets abortion, socio-political rights, then the abortion laws would be such that they would help in reducing the population growth. We can also talk about financial rights. If the woman has a financial right, she would have the decision making authority. She would have the authority to make decision about the family planning and the number of children which are to be given birth to. Then there is one social capillarity theory and demographic transition theory, that if a particular family or a particular person reaches a particular income level, then they would aspire to remain in that income level, and to remain in that income level they would give birth to less number of children, because giving birth to children is a costly affair. Giving birth and caring for those children is a costly affair which could impact their lifestyle. So this social capillarity theory and demographic transition theory talks about that if economic growth happens, then the population then the birth rate decreases. Now we move on to the conclusion part. In the body part, I've given you multiple points, so you please figure out for yourself that which points are most suitable for you and could be easily reproduced in the answer sheet. So you remember those points. In the conclusion, we can talk about some of the government initiatives which are being taken in this regard. So as I talked in the diagram showing the link between poverty and population growth, the government these days is focusing upon the socio-economic factors such as MMR, women illiteracy, so that population could be controlled. The second thing which could be talked about is that if you have some specific data that links women empowerment and population control, you could show that data as well in the conclusion. So one approach to write the conclusion is that you talk about India's population policy has evolved from coercion, the coercion policy which was followed during the emergency period of mid-70s, to being focused on women empowerment. Now India's population policy is focused on women empowerment. Schemes such as Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao are a manifestation of the strategy. You could name any other scheme if you want to in such a conclusion, or you can write your conclusion in this manner, that Economic Survey 2019 states that rising female education level led to fall in India's TFR from 4.5 to 2.3, thus proving that women empowerment is the key to population control. So you're directly talking about the demand of the question. So in this way you could write your conclusion. I am also giving you an answer which I have written using the content and the data which I have just presented to you. You could pause this video to read this answer, or you could go to the link which is given in the description, that is the www.graceis.com. Thank you.